please take your seats. We are now ready to begin the last session at the Hindu Pavilion, Murali Ganam, Remembering Balamuralikrishna. We have Prince Rama Varma in conversation with Sreenivasa Murthy.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. First, I would like to thank respected Rama Varma for giving me this opportunity to participate in the program. Second, I would also like to thank the Hindu and the entire team of Lit for Life. And I consider it's an honor and also a privilege to be speaking in front of very well accomplished and august audience like you. Many years back, there was a direct relay from All India Radio was on. It was in All India Radio studio. A maestro was singing one of his own composition in a rare raga. Many audience were also sitting in the studio. The maestro started singing a composition on Lord Shiva. It goes like this: Bho Shambho Tavakina Charanam Bhoja Bhaktin Dehi Me Sada. Then he moved on to the Charanam. The Charanam Bhusaradi Sadbhakta Varakalpa Bhuruha Murali Ganapriya. After that, for some reason, the singer forgot the next line. So he was repeating the previous line a couple of times. Then the whole atmosphere was becoming a little bit anxious. Then far away from him, one of his passionate students was sitting. He was also anxious to help his guru. Then, but how to help him? But he just opened his bag, took out a book, and just opened a page. And as if a miracle, in the same page, the very song, lyrics was written, what was being sung. The next line was actually supposed to be Bhogi Bhushana, that means the one who has the serpent as his jewel, and Vibhuti Dharana, one who is also having Vibhuti. So he connected with his eyes with his guru, and he mimed Bhogi Bhushana, Vibhuti Dharana. Taking that clue, the guru sang the next line happily, and he ended it up. And he continued smiling as if nothing has happened. All India Radio staff also heaved a sigh of relief. That maestro was Dr. Balamuralikrishna. That student is none other than Prince Rama Varma.
I feel like we are in a scene from a movie now. Recently, I was in conversation with one of my esteemed colleagues, Khatam Karthik, and we were talking about the hierarchy in a Carnatic concert setup. The singer's name is given first, followed by the violin, followed by the percussion. So sometimes the singer would be somebody who was born in 1970s, and the percussionist would be much senior to him. And some of the senior Vidwans, they have been fighting, saying that my name should be put first. So Khatam Karthik was a percussionist himself. He had the explanation. In Mridangam, however great you are, you have only one dimension, which is rhythm. So you can play whatever. In violin, you have rhythm and melody. You can play a tune and you can have talam also. While the singer is blessed with three dimensions, where you have rhythm, melody and the language, poetry, literature, whatever you call it. In Carnatic music, we have such a strong system of improvisation. We sing raga, alapana, tanam, we improvise with swarams, we can sing pallavis. Since that aspect of music is so strong, unfortunately over the years, a tradition has come where classical singers, many of them, I'm not saying all of them, but many of them don't pay much attention to the lyrics. I am a Malayali, for example, and when I sing a Tyagaraja Kriti, most of it is in Telugu, or a Dikshitar Kriti, which is mostly in Sanskrit. While Balamuralikrishna said, before the internet, before the Google and stuff like that was invented, he was one of the earliest to start paying full attention to Sahityam, or lyrics, being a composer himself, and to give respect to the lyrics by other composers, which is why he is a perfect person to be featured in a literary festival. You should just remove his mesmerizing voice, his music, even his rhythmic prowess, just the lyrics merit him a place for posterity. The sad thing is that his voice is so, there are some musicians for whom the voice has been a liability. They'll sound very harsh or off-shruti or not melodious. But Balamurali said, as someone who is obsessed with his compositions, I find that for him, one of the biggest curses was his magnificent voice, because that is so mesmerizing that people they are happy to hear just the sound and enjoy that and not go beyond. When I joined him in 1995, at that time mobile phones were not invented, and he would call me on the landline, and sometimes my security man or the servant would answer the phone, and he would come, he would be shivering and saying, somebody is calling you, I have never heard a voice like this. Just on the phone, hello, could I speak to Rama, please? So even on the phone, and a normal person would be just stunned into a state of almost madness just by one line in his voice. But I've met so many people surrounding Balamuralikrishna, his accompanies, people who have studied with him. And when Prasanna Ramaswamy kindly invited me for this presentation, I had to nominate one person to share the stage with me. And I found Sreenivasa Murthy had a greater insight and understanding of Balamuralikrishna, what he was, his mind, his lyrics, his music, than many people who have even formally studied with him for several years. So it's a pleasure to be here with you. We are not just going to praise each other, it's just the opening. And we mean it also.
Thank you, sir. All of us are aware that tomorrow is Saint Tyagaraja's 170th Aradhana. It is 170 years back the great saint lived, who had many well-accomplished students. Among them, many people identify about 30 are the most prominent students of Tyagaraja. Among these 30, one was Manumuchavadi Venkata Subbaiah, who lived between 1789 and 1886. He was also called as Akumudagala Venkata Subbaiah. He continued to learn music even till his advanced age, and informally he was also a Telugu teacher for many of his classmates. To him came an young boy from Andhra region, at that Pradesh, I refer to Andhra Pradesh, that means integral Andhra at that time. He was a very young boy, came all the way by foot and reached Manumuchavadi Venkata Subbaiah, prostrated him and sought his Gurukulam to learn music. By that time he was already a scholar in Sanskrit, Telugu and grammar. He learned music from Manumuchavadi, and with a determination, with a one-pointed objective, he went back to Andhra Pradesh to transmit and to popularize Tyagaraja Kritis. That is Susarla Lakshana Murthy Shastri. He spent entire life together with his wife, feeding all the children, whoever came to him for learning music, spent his entire life in austerity and dedicated his entire life for spreading Tyagaraja's music. He never gave a live performance of music. To him came another gentleman from Srikakulam, who is Gayaka Sarvabhauma, Parampara Ramakrishna Pantulu Garu. He learned music from him. He also followed his guru's steps in spreading music, taking care of a lot of children, and he was also responsible for establishing All India Radio in Vijayawada. To him came a 7 or 8 years old boy sitting in a cycle, small bucket basket, pedaled by his father, Mangalampalli Balamuralikrishna, and the son is Balamuralikrishna. Balamuralikrishna spent nearly about 12 years in his tutelage. Ramakrishna Pantulu, I believe, he has taught him about 200 what they call is Lakshana Gitas, and about 800 compositions, and several very rare Varnams, various other compositions to Balamuralikrishna. So he continued to learn until Parampara transitioned in 1951. Perhaps it is not an exaggeration to say that Balamurali is perhaps the only one who has composed so many songs on the Guru Parampara. Right from Tyagaraja to Susala Dakshinamurthy to Parupalli Ramakrishna Pantulu. There are dozens of compositions. Even if you take Parupalli Ramakrishna Pantulu, I was just mentioning to Mr. Varma, one could start the Mangalacharanam with praising his Guru and end with a Mangalam. So, just to give a sample, may I request you to just sample out one or two?
Yeah. I'm sure most of you are very familiar with Carnatic music. Just in case somebody is not, a normal composition in Carnatic music is called a Kriti. And Kriti has 3 parts: the Pallavi, Anupallavi, and Charanam. I don't want this to become a singing event. We'll concentrate on the lyrics. Still, I'll give you a small sample. He's made his amazing ability was his brevity. He would, like in Sanskrit, we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Just the entire cosmos is one family. A very lofty idea is expressed in very small words. So, very rich in content. So he has composed a song, Ayya Guruvarya, where he dedicates his entire music to his Guru. He says, Ayya Guruvarya, that is a Pallavi. He says, Ni Mrudu Pallava Vacho Vilasamu. Your conversation or verbal display, which is like soft flower petals. Ni Mrudu Pallava Vacho Vilasamu Pallaviga. So, Ni Mrudu Pallava Pallavi. That is my Pallavi. Ni Anubandhamu. It is not only my love for you, but our mutual relationship. Ni Anubandhamu Anupallaviga. That is my Anupallavi. And your feet. Ni Charanamule Charanamuga. So your Charanam is my Charanam. Then we feel the punchline is over. Then the real punchline comes. Ni Akrutiye. Your full physical form. Ma Krutiga. That is my Kruti. So Ni Akruti and Ma Krutiga. So his entire music is dedicated to you, Ayya Guruvarya. And he has invented so many new ragas, and none of them were invented for the sake of, okay, this morning I'll have a coffee and invent a raga. But it was not like that. He would sing a tune, and when he found that it did not fall in any existing raga, he would just give a name. So this raga was called Sushama. Sari ma pada sada pa marisa ni mrudu pallava vacho vilasamu pallaviga. Like that it goes. So there are so many other compositions I remember now. For example, he made one on the Kumbh Mela in Godavari. So Godavari, it's called Godavari Pushkaram. It's just one line what he expresses. In Ramayana we have Ravana's plane, vehicle, which is the Pushpaka Vimanam. So the specialty with Pushpaka Vimanam is if 2 people like us are sitting, there is space for a 3rd person. If 10 people are sitting, there is space for 11th person. And if the 1,000 people enter it, there is space for one more person. So of course in real Kumbh Mela, that is not the case. Sometimes stampedes happen and people get killed also. But we'll forget that for that time being. So he's expressed, this composition is on Godavari Pushkaram. So he's saying that like the Pushpaka Vimanam, however many people go there, there is space for one more person. So just one line, Pushkaramu Pushpakam. That's all. So, but when he sings the song, we are mesmerized by his voice and the flamboyant personality. He'll sing, Godavari Nadi. So I sang Godavari. He will make it even more dramatic by Godavari Nadi. So people are, but actually they miss out the small things like Pushkaramu, Pushpakam. So many of his compositions have little things which merit being viewed under a microscope and highlighted, small facets. You have known him for so many years, no? So many decades actually.
No, about 40 years back was my first. 1976, I saw his first concert in Bangalore. That was a historical concert. From that day onwards, I'm connected with him, his music rather.
Yes, but Balamurali sir, this is my opinion, people would be mesmerized by a few songs and they would request him to sing them again and again, like Nagumomu or Devadi Deva or Urunal Poduma or Vibare Ramarasam, which he would oblige. He feels the Sabhas pay me because hall is full. The hall gets full because people pay and buy tickets. The people who buy tickets, they want to hear me sing Nagumomu for the 330th time. So I'll sing it. That is his reasoning. But whenever he has given concerts with other songs than the staple 5 or 6, the performance level is something else, because there is something called artistic fatigue. When we sing the same thing again and again, we ourselves can get fed up. So there are so many people, when I was younger, they would tell me, oh, I have 50 concerts of Madurai Mani Iyer. Can I have? No, they are like hidden away in my armpit. I won't give you, but I'm just telling I have. So many music collectors never shared their stuff. And unfortunately, many of them who did not share, they didn't have children who were interested. So these old guys will sit with their spool recordings, hoarding them, and they die. And the children are not interested, they chuck them. So like that, so much of valuable material has gone and continues to go. While Sreenivasa Murthy, once the internet started itself, and there is a site called Sangeeta Priya. Sangeeta Priya is like the Reserve Bank, or now Reserve Bank, we can't talk about it because of the demonetization and whatever is happening. So the ideal Reserve Bank, which doesn't exist. So he's like the ideal Reserve Bank of Carnatic music. He's shared, filtered out the best possible concerts from the song selection point of view, singing point of view, accompanist point of view, recording quality. Some of it will be really bad. He'll sit and clean the spools, and sometimes there will be speed variation and the pitch will vary. All that he's electronically corrected, and he's uploaded close to 200 vintage concerts of Dr.Mangalampalli Balamuralikrishna, just displaying his best, which any of us can listen to. In fact, that is how I met him. The first time I discovered him, the next whole week, people thought I was alcoholic because my eyes were red. I was staying up the whole night listening to his uploads. So now I have gently coaxed him to start sharing his stuff on YouTube.com, which has a much wider reach than just the Carnatic music aficionados. So just now he started a YouTube channel. If you just search for Sreenivasa Murthy on YouTube, and if you like Balamuralikrishna, every week you will get some new treasure revealed. In fact, so much of what he has, I have not heard myself except from his collection.
Thank you, sir. Having said that, you mentioned that the uniqueness of Balamuralikrishna. when you are talking about Ayya Guruvarya. If we can go back to the history, when Balamuralikrishna was just sitting in his bucket seat of his bicycle, when Pattabhiramaya is pedaling the bicycle towards the Guru's house, on his way, Balamurali saw a cinema advertisement. At that time, cinema advertisements were going on actually in an ox-driven cart with a loudspeaker playing on. On the loudspeaker, Balamurali heard Dwaram Venkateswamy Naidu's violin being played. So this violin was a Ragam Tanam Pallavi in Kalyani. So on this, sitting in the bicycle bucket seat, he heard the Ragam Tanam Pallavi. As soon as he reached his Guru's house, he ran and climbed the steps and asked his classmate Annavarapu Swami, "Can you please give me your violin?" So Annavarapu gave his violin. So in front of Annavarapu, Balamurali played the entire Ragam Tanam Pallavi just listening once. Then what happens? His Guru is standing in the ground floor. He heard. Then he said, "Murali, you have played very well, but what I hear is Dwaram's violin. There is no Murali in it." So this was the first trigger for Balamurali to search something to become unique. Then later, some years later, one Swami Vimalananda Bharati, he came to Vijayawada for his Chaturmasya Vratam. Then he was residing close to Balamurali's house. He sent words for Balamurali to meet him, asked him, "How is it going? How is his sadhana going? What is he doing? And what you want to become, tell me." Balamurali was just listening. Then he asked the question, "What was the music before Tyagaraja's era? Can you tell me?" Then Balamurali said at that time he was 14, 15, whatever it appeared to me, he told him. Then why Tyagaraja has become so great? What is unique about him? So you have to choose something unique in order to become unique and practice on that one. So with that guidelines, he came back and contemplated. I think in 1946, he produced all the 72 Melakartas based on this inspiration. So these 72 Melakartas, what he has composed, Varmaji has learned all these kritis directly from him. We are very grateful if you could just sample one or two.
Since it's a literary festival, I'm keeping it to the Sahityam more than Sangeetam. When you said about wanting to be unique and different, I remember once we were traveling in Kerala and we saw an advertisement for a television set or something. So he said, "You saw what we saw, I'll tell you now." But he said, in 1972, I was in Kerala. They interviewed me. They asked me, "What do you think of Jeshudas?" I said, "It's good." Then they said, "What do you think of Niyathinkare Vasudevan?" It's better. Then what do you think of Chennai? He's the best. Then they asked me, "What do you think of Balamuralikrishna?" I thought, and it's better than the best. So, I mean, he had many strengths, but the only modesty was not one of them. So, and then this TV advertisement was better than the best, and he saw that the first time that phrase was coined, I only did it, he said. Better than the best. So I asked him also, earlier till 1960s, 70s, he sang in a certain way, but later, like Picasso was master of realism at first, and then he went into his abstract modern thing. So his explanation was this: it was not like because Picasso could not draw realistically. Same with Balamuralikrishna. Many people wrongly and very wrongly feel that if he sang a Vivadi raga or a raga with 4 notes, some weird thing, he can only sing these weird things. He can't sing one Chakrabarnam or Todi or Bhairavi. So the 100% proof, you just go through his recordings to see what is perceived as the typical classical traditional idiom. In that idiom, what Khararapriya, what Todi, what Bhairavi, what Chakrabarnam he has sung, he has uploaded. But people can choose to, if we take a completely different example of the gentleman who acts as Mr. Bean, for example. Young children like him, but the physical comedy is just around 3% of his talent. If you hear Rowan Atkinson speak, his speaking talent is so much superior to most others who are alive or even dead. But people just concentrate on him muddling around as Mr. Bean and say, oh, Mr. Bean, Singamarika, Mooji Patale. So Balamurali also, just take one aspect of him where he sings an Apurva Raga and say, oh, he sang only Apurva. But it's not because he could not sing Chakraban or Bhairavi correctly. He sang so much and so many others have also sung. He wanted to do something new, something which is not done. Even in his compositions, Simha Rupa Deva in Kamboji, for example. One phrase will put there which we have never heard in Kamboji. And when I first used to study with him, I would be shocked because this unexpected thing would come. Then the phrase which kept coming again and again with a naughty smile or giggle would be something new, something different, like that he would say. So always he was attracted to newness. So one of the things that which you will know very well, even Nagumomo, which he sang again and again and again and again and again, each time the Raga Lapna would be completely fresh and completely, it was not like the same pattern, but where he began, how he ended, just keep that. Most of us have one limit to our creativity or imagination, but this is literally boundless, his creativity. And with words also, he did not have the benefit or the curse, whatever you call it, of formal education. Still, as a young boy, when he went to Vijayawada All India Radio station, one lady spoke to him in English and he didn't know one word of English and he just stood there. Then he felt really bad that she was kind of laughing at him. He was only 6-7 years old. Then he decided to teach himself English, though he had never gone to school. There are so many Carnatic musicians who might be amazing in their art, even now in 21st century, but who may not be able to express themselves properly in English. And there are some Carnatic musicians who may express themselves in English better than they sing music. That's a different thing. But Balamuralikrishna, at that time, with very few resources, he taught himself English to an extent that whatever was in his mind, he could express himself. Once, for example, I was abroad teaching music in summer to escape the Indian summer also. And his birthday falls on July 6th. So there's a felicitation function and he wanted me to speak. Then I said I'll be back only by August, so I can't come. Then he said, no, I want you to speak. And then he called me and he said, we'll have it in after you come back. We'll await your August presence. So to use a phrase like that, this is common. I mean, if I just start reciting the word play, which you would also know so much, it just came on the spot in any language, not only in music. Telugu, at least, it was his mother tongue. But Sanskrit compositions, and he had a contract with a cassette company called Sangeeta, which was owned by Kannadigas. So they gave him hundreds of Purandaradasa songs, and at that time he was the number one singer to have recorded maximum number of Purandaradasa songs in correct Kannada. So any language he wanted to handle it like a native speaker, which is sadly missing in Carnatic music even now. So I sang from my first guru, who was amazing in his own way, but not very strong in Telugu Sahityam. And Tyagaraja forms such a big part of our repertoire. But now I Google if I want to see Krishnani Begane Par also, Krishnani Begane lyrics and meaning, Google. Immediately we get. But when this was not invented, he was self-driven to learn all these languages and literally to be better than the best. Suppose S.P. Balasubramaniam sang one phrase, he didn't want to be any less. Suppose one Hindustani musician, not only singer but instrumentalist, Hari Prasad Chaurasya, Ramjad Ali Khan, there are so many instrumentalists who have given Jugalbandi with him. Any phrase they play or sing, he had an answer. He was never found lacking or inadequate in front of a Hindustani musician or a film singer or a Carnatic musician. And like Roger Federer, they say at his prime he could just demolish any tennis player, maybe except Rafael Nadal. But it would look like a friendly invitation to a conversation. Please come, let's have a conversation, and he would just beat the shit, I don't know whether you can say, beat the life out of them. So Balamurali sir also, his body language was very mild, very soft. even when he sang very, very complicated talams, you would never find any physical effort. But we know something really hard is happening because the co-artists, their face would become more and more red color, purple and black, and they'll be sweating profusely. So we know some kind of torture is going on. But his physical demeanor was always smiling and soft, never aggressive.